Hey, welcome to worshiptutorials.com. This is a new type of video series, not a new type of video because we talk about guitars all the time, but I've wanted to do a series for a while where we take a guitar and just talk about it for a while. Let you hear what it sounds like, but tell the story of the guitar, talk about what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it means to us. And I thought I would kick this off with the Blue no-name Telecaster. One, because I've seen you guys ask me about this guitar when you've seen it in videos or when you see it in the room. Like, what's that Blue Tele? It doesn't have a name on it. What is that thing? Two, I wanted to start with this guitar because it means the most to me of any guitar that I've ever owned, and I can pretty much say with confidence this guitar means more to me than any guitar I ever will own. You could give me, I'm not going to buy one because they cost too much. You could gift me a 1959 original burst Les Paul, and it would not mean more to me than this guitar. It has a name. I don't name guitars. I've named 2 guitars ever, and this is one of them. This guitar is named Wilbur 2, and it's named Wilbur because I built it basically from scratch, except for the neck. Didn't build that, but I built this guitar with my grandpa Wilbur. My grandpa passed away several weeks ago, actually not that long ago. And so I wanted to make this video as a tribute to my grandpa. I wanted this guitar to be, and it always has been, but this guitar in this video to be a tribute to my grandpa Wilbur. I say Wilbur 2 because Grandpa Wilbur and I actually built 2 guitars together. This is Wilbur 1, and as you can see, it has his name there in the neck pocket. It says 01 of 08. So these guitars basically were born in early 2008. This guitar, it's not really a guitar anymore, is it? This body never really worked. It was never great. It's made out of ash and not swamp ash. I realized that you need to make them out of swamp ash because it weighs a lot less. This guitar was always kind of a dud. And this is going to be a running thing throughout this video. I didn't know what I was doing building a guitar back in 2008. So I just have the body of this sort of as a memento. But this one, I don't know what happened. The stars aligned, the heavens opened, a light shone down on us from heaven. And this guitar is pretty much, this thing is a player. And it sounds great, it feels great. It just came together. Grandpa Wilbur was a carpenter all his life. He lived in California. That's where my mom is from. It's my mom's dad. That's where they're from, San Jose. I lived in Oklahoma, so I would visit him like every year or maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I'd travel to California, or he'd come to Oklahoma. I loved spending time with Grandpa Wilbur and my grandma as well. But I knew he was a carpenter, but he was always, he was retired when I knew him. He moved to Oklahoma later in his life, so we lived about an hour apart for several years. And my grandpa built all kinds of stuff. So, like I said, he was a carpenter all his life, but then in retirement, he would just build anything for anybody. A lot of the furniture in my house, he built, which is awesome. It's like heirloom stuff. It's not fun to move because he only built stuff with just solid wood, right? So stuff weighs a ton, but it's going to last forever. So one thing I would do is I would go like to Pottery Barn, and I'd take the Pottery Barn catalog and I'd say, Grandpa, can you build this? And like he would straight up go to Pottery Barn with a tape measure and a book, and he would just write down stuff. They must have been like, what is this guy doing? I'm surprised he didn't get kicked out. So he would build all kinds of stuff like that for people and for us, for me. And I told him one day, I was like, why don't we build some guitars together? Which he was totally into that idea. So I told him I would pick out some wood, and I bought a template from Ron Kern. Now, back in 2008, it was all based on forums and eBay. A little different than it is today. And so I found like this group of people who would home make Telecasters, and Ron Kern's stuff was really popular with them. I actually have a buddy who has a Ron Kern Jazzmaster, and he loves says it's one of the best guitars he's ever played. He actually prefers it to his Elliott, if I'm not mistaken. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he does. So it's really high-end stuff from Ron Kern. So anyway, he sold templates, and I bought a template that you would use just to put on wood and route it out. And then I went to a specialty wood shop in Oklahoma City. I told them what I was doing, and they said, yeah, we've got wood that would be perfect for like building a guitar that's been kiln dried and it's at the right moisture level and that kind of thing. So I picked out a slab of alder, which is what this guitar became, and a slab of ash, which is what the pink one became. So the alder one worked out. It's a lot better weight too. So I took that stuff to Grandpa's house, and he had all the tooling and everything you needed. We set it up and routed the body out. Now, if you look close, you can tell that this is not, Fender didn't make this guitar. The dimensions are a little, like right here, it's a little bit short on the horn. Like I think it should come up a little higher. You can see like the pick guard almost goes to the very top of the guitar. But for the most part, right here you can see that it's not just perfect on the waist here. For the most part, though, it came out pretty good. On the back, you can see there's some areas where it's like it didn't get quite sanded right. We actually kind of, roughed in on the tooling in a little bit right here. The planer was not quite like perfectly true right there. So you can feel that. But, it came together pretty well. So I'll go over the specs of the guitar for you. So like I said, the body is made of alder. It was one piece of wood. We used that to make a two-piece body with a center seam. The neck is from Warmoth. I wasn't going to attempt to build a neck and put frets in and that kind of stuff, but I did get it completely raw, unfinished. Now, a little bit about this neck. This was, well, I don't know what their system, I don't know if it's the same now than it was back in 2007-ish. This was the boat neck. So it is a chunk down here, like it is big. And then as it goes up, it's compound in two different ways. So the radius down here is a little bit rounder. I want to say maybe it's 9.5 or 10-ish to either 12 or 16. I want to go maybe 10 to 16. I'm not exactly sure. But it's compound radius. It's more round down here where you will chord, and flatter up here where you play more, lead type of stuff. But the back of the neck, the profile of the neck, is also kind of a compound thing too. So it is like a soft V. It's chunkier back here, and then it sort of thins and flattens out to what I would say more like a medium to a little bit bigger than medium C here. So it's compound in two different ways, and it's actually really, really nice to play. I was a pleasant surprise. I knew I wanted like a big, thick neck. I didn't realize it would be this big or this thick. The boat neck from Warmoth, at least in 2007, is huge. So I've really grown to like it. I didn't like it as much in the beginning, but I've really grown to love it. The tuners I also bought from Warmoth. I think they're either Schaller or Godot locking tuners. I will say they work perfectly well. One thing about them is they're really heavy. So this guitar, like if this was a lightweight body, like a thin line, these tuners would probably make this thing pretty neck heavy. But as it is, it's still neck heavy, as you can see. It's just gonna dive there. So You know, if I were going to upgrade or change something, I might go with a different set of tuners. I'd probably just go with some vintage Fender style because there's no tremolo on here. The only reason you would need this screw type of locking tuner is just to make string changes easier. But they work great. Moving down, it's a maple neck. It's actually a little bit flamed here on the top. So when you're looking down playing it, you see the flame on the top. It's a nice touch. It's just for me, I suppose. Medium jumbo frets, rosewood fretboard, and this is a thick slab of rosewood, by the way. Warmoth, it's good stuff if you're interested in their stuff. I did, on the frets, somewhat recently, rounded all the fret ends over, rolled the fretboard edge, so it just feels really smooth and comfortable, as good as any guitar I've ever played. But I kind of do that with all the guitars that I have, unless the builder that makes the guitar does that on their end, like Shelton or Jennings or somebody like that. They'll do that. It's part of what you pay for with a really high-end guitar. Moving down, this is a Seymour Duncan vintage mini humbucker in the neck, which was the original pickup that I put in here. And then this originally was a Seymour Duncan Little 59. Never liked the way it sounded. I thought this was going to be kind of like one of the inspirations for this was the Fender 52 vintage hot rod Telecaster. Those were cool. They don't make them anymore. It had this exact pickup in the neck, this specific pickup in the neck with a single coil bridge. So it's kind of become that over time. But I thought, like, I'm going to take that concept and kind of make like a Les Paul into a Telecaster. So I had initially a Seymour Duncan Little 59 in the bridge. It didn't sound great because I also had 250K pots. And if you know about wiring, you want to pair 500K pots with humbucker pickups. This had 250K because I bought a Telecaster wiring harness from a guy on eBay. Really well made, but not the right pot value for those original pickups. Standard, well, not standard, it's a 4-way blade. So it's bridge, middle, in parallel, which is normal, middle position, neck, and then you get middle in series, which gives you a little bit of volume boost and a kind of a bigger, rounder sound. If I were going to change one more thing about this guitar, it would be the switch. I'd just go to standard 3-way, bridge, middle, neck. I never use 4 position. So Wilkinson bridge with brass compensated saddles. It is a string through body. You can tell that I, building this guitar, just had a drill and went down. Like I didn't have the press because they're not perfectly in a row. Kind of got 3 and 3 there. Here's a nice a little story. So when Grandpa and I built this guitar, we routed the pickup or the electronics cavity, you know, with nice machine tooling that worked, and it was the perfect route. But it wasn't quite deep enough because I didn't know how deep to make it. So when I went to put this thing together, it wasn't deep enough for all the controls to kind of go down in there. So rather than go back to Grandpa's house and say, hey, can we make this a little bit deeper? I thought I'm just going to take a drill, power drill, put the biggest bit that I can on there and just kind of come in real shallow and try and, you know, shave away part of the bottom. Well, I got a little too much force and I went, I drilled all the way through. I wasn't happy about it when it happened, but you know, it's come to be just part of the DNA of what this guitar is. And now I wouldn't have it any other way. So like I said, I never really liked the bridge Little 59 pickup in there. So I went with a Porter custom bridge Telecaster pickup. Brian Porter is a friend, really, really good guy, makes really awesome pickups. Check him out if you haven't. We had a guitar from Shelton, a Telecaster from Shelton. One of the first ones he sent us to demo. It had a humbucker in the neck and a Porter custom bridge Tele in the bridge position. Sounded awesome. So I always thought, like, if I ever take that Little 59 out, I'm putting a custom Porter Tele bridge in. And I did. And I really like it. This is what it sounds like. So you'll hear playing samples of this guitar all the way through this video, but you can really tell there the bridge pickup has a lot of spank and clarity and sparkle to it. And the neck is sort of, it's very different, but I feel like it pairs really well, even with the 250K pot in the neck. It's really warm. Like if you play certain things, it feels really kind of like jazzy or bluesy. Not that I play jazz or blues style music with it, but it kind of has that vibe. Together, it's really good middle position sound. And as you heard there in the 4 position in series, you get a bit of a volume boost. It sounds a little more full in the mid range, which I like for clean sounds. For dirt sounds, it's not my favorite. If you put a little overdrive on it, it sounds like this. So even with gain, that neck position sounds really, really warm and smooth, but still has a lot of top end clarity, which I like. So let's talk about the finish on this guitar, because I told you I bought the wood from a lumber yard and I bought the neck completely unfinished. And if you look at these two guitars together, you can see that I went for a pair with these things. I was really into, and I still am, like the Fender 50s sort of colors inspired by, cars at the time. So we got shell pink and Daphne blue. And you might think to yourself that I went to like Guitar Re-Ranch, which was in business back then, and still is today. And it's a great place to get like finish. If you want to do your own finish, I would recommend it. Or StewMac, they have good stuff too. And you might think I went to a specialty place and said, I want shell pink and I want Daphne blue. That is not what I did. I went to the local hardware store, which was probably Lowe's or Home Depot, and I bought Krylon spray can paint. And I just went and found the cap of the can that I thought looked like shell pink and that I thought looked like Daphne blue. And I think they came pretty close. I was actually really pleased with the way these came out when I first made them. So so this is supposed to be a Daphne blue. It's actually Krylon spray paint, but it worked really well. So I did the whole thing. I read all the forums, and I'd never done it before. I'd actually never done any kind of finish work in my life before. But, I sanded the wood and prepped it, did the grain filler, put on the primer coat. You can see here as I'm wearing through the finish, there's, the white primer coat underneath. And then I did the spray. I sprayed a coat of Krylon on there, of paint on there, and then I sanded it, and then I let it cure, and the Krylon stuff dries pretty fast. Then I sprayed another one on. I can't remember how many I did. Whatever I read in the forums to do, that's what I did. And then I sanded it down, so I thought it was really smooth. And then I actually used a nitrocellulose lacquer. I'll either subtitle myself or I'll put it in the description what I used exactly. And if you look close, boy, you can really tell that this is a homemade job. But it is starting to do things that I really wanted it to do. Like it's kind of yellowing around here. Like you can tell that in 10 more years, this is a 12-year-old guitar. In 12, 15 years, this is going to look different than it does now. It's starting to relic. I pulled the bridge off at one point, and I probably didn't let it dry long enough before I put the hardware on, and it pulled a bunch of paint off right here. You can see that. It had the orange peel finish because I was impatient and I didn't really know what I was doing when I finished it. So it has like the orange peel. I tried to get rid of that. So like this area of the guitar has been sanded over again to get rid of that, but it didn't really work. So it's kind of a matte finish here, kind of a glossier finish here. Places where I, rub against it, the finish is starting to come off. All of these things are very cool to me and make this a very personal guitar to me, and make me love it. But if you would play it, you'd probably look at this thing and think, man, he needs to return this guitar to wherever he bought it from. The neck, like I said, this was bare wood. It's a rosewood fretboard, maple neck. So rosewood you leave unfinished. The back of the neck is finished with tung oil, T-U-N-G, which I understand is a popular type of an oil-based finish for like gun stocks, that kind of thing. I really like the way this feels. I wanted something that was almost like a sort of like a satin type of a finish that had almost like a sheen, like a luster to it, which this one does. So the whole, like the headstock and the back of the neck is all finished in that, and it's really easy to do. You put it on a rag, you apply it with a rag. You don't have to spray it or anything. It's not very nasty to work with. Now it is starting to wear, like on this part of the neck. You know, it's like I'm wearing through it. Like up here, there's more finish and it's a little shinier. You can see if you really look close. But I kind of like that. You know, if it gets down to bare wood, I think I'm going to be okay with that. It's just another thing that makes it, you know, more mine. So I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I don't play this guitar much. And if you watch our videos, you'll notice too, you don't see this guitar much at all. Actually, this guitar was for a while my main, I think one of my only guitars. It's kind of crazy when I think about it. What I did was I had a couple guitars. I had a couple Fender, like made in Mexico guitars that I really liked. I had for a while a Strat, Jimmy Vaughn Strat, and I had like the 72 thin line for a bit. And I sold all that stuff to buy these parts to build these two guitars, which is kind of crazy. I sold like the really nice, you know, guitars that worked to build two guitars, having never built a guitar before and really having no clue what I was doing. It was quite a gamble, but I was an acoustic guy, so it wasn't, I guess, that big of a gamble. And I got lucky because this one just plays really well. And over the years, as I've gotten better at setting up guitars, maintaining guitars, putting them together, doing the fret work, this guitar, you could pick this up and play it against any guitar in here. And I think, to me personally at least, it hangs with them, both in the way it feels, the way it plays, and the way it sounds. And so, you know, I haven't played this guitar much over the years because it's had that bridge pickup that I didn't like. But, you know, like I said, with my grandfather passing recently, it's really made me think about this guitar a lot more. And just think about how much I like it. Like, I've played it, like I said, it was my main guitar for a while. Like when I started working at New Hope Church as a campus worship leader, this was the only guitar I played for like every week in, week out for years. And I think actually I need a fret job on it because I'm looking, there's like some serious fret work. If you think of where you put capo 4 playing G shapes down, like 7, 8 frets down, it needs some work. So that's pretty much what I did. Cowboy chords, call it a day. So I might need to take it to the guy here that I take it to get some work done to it. But you know, it still plays and sounds really nice. But it's really made me think about this guitar a lot, and especially now that I've got, you know, the pickups in it that have a sound that I really like. I think I might be playing this guitar more in videos moving forward. And like I said, this guitar is without question the most special guitar to me, the most meaningful guitar in my life, and I think it always will be. So this guitar in this video is my tribute to Grandpa Wilbur. I loved him very much. I will miss him. And hey, if you like this kind of video, let me know. If you're the type of person that wants to watch playing only videos, we get these comments a lot like, man, all this guy does is talk. Well, this series is not going to be for you. But I know there's a lot of guitar nerds out there that are just like me, that you want to hear the story behind a guitar. You want to be told what it feels like to play the guitar, which I think is actually more valuable than hearing what it sounds like, by the way, just my own personal opinion. Then this series is going to be for you. So subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.